Up-leveling your circle of influence. That's what we're talking about today. If you're a business owner, you need to be thinking about the people around you giving you business advice. And you need to be really, really careful with who you're getting advice from and who you're taking it to heart. Okay. Now, having a mentor is crucial. I have had coaches and consultants for the past 18 years. I've never been without them once I had them because it truly is such an incredible opportunity to have somebody who's further along than you telling you what to do. However, a lot of business owners are taking advice from people that are not further along than them. So we're actually not talking about coaches and consultants today. We're talking about other people you are unknowingly getting advice from. I see it happening all of the time. The spouse that has nothing to do with your business, he or she is not involved in your business. They don't know a fraction of what it takes to run the business, yet they are giving you advice and you are listening. Number two, your right hand, somebody that is working with you in the business. You will not make a decision without asking them, and then you're getting their input on a big decision. Okay. Maybe you need to check with your CPA. Maybe you have peers that are at a similar level or somebody who's not even at your level giving you advice. Okay. Now, I recently got my ears double pierced. I had them double pierced a long time ago, like forever and ever ago. I probably haven't had them closed for a minimum a decade. And I decided I want to go back and get my ears double pierced. So I thought this could be fun. Neither of my girls have them. So I thought maybe they'd come with me. So it ends up Tanner says yes. Tegan is absolutely not interested. And she probably will not be interested after she saw what just happened to my ears. So here's what happened. I purposely pick a place that's like nice and clean, and they only have certified like licensed nurses there. And I use like real gold piercings. I'm like, of course, like, this is going to be great. Well, 2 days later, my ears were so crazy infected. You never saw it on Instagram because there was no way I was coming on showing you what my ears looked like. And what happened was I wake up and I'm like, oh, this is bad. Like it was red and sore and puffy and inflamed. It was so bad. And my husband's like, you need to put like hydrogen peroxide. And like, I would throw on some like Neosporin or something, like they look horrible. And I was like, no. The lady said, do not put hydrogen peroxide on your ears. Only use this solution. And he's like, yeah, I don't think she knew your ears were going to look like this. You need to put them on there. So he convinces me to do it. And I shouldn't say he convinces me. I allow him to convince me. Then like the next day I have a dermatologist appointment. I have like my skin cancer like checkups. And I go to the dermatologist and she's like, whoa, your ears. I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, why don't I write you a prescription for an antibiotic? Okay. And then I'm like, I kind of get weird about antibiotics. I'm like, no, I think I'm okay. She's like, well, let me at least give you like stuff to put on it, like an ointment or something. But I'm like, okay, I'll take that. So anyway, while I leave, I call the piercing place finally. And I'm like, hey, here's what happened. Okay. So they immediately say to me, what is it they think is happening without seeing it is they're like, your earring is being pushed in your ear. You need to come in immediately. We need to take that earring out, put in an earring with a longer bar so that your ear can start to heal. Do not use hydrogen peroxide. Do not use Neosporin. Like those are literally making it not heal even more. I'm like, oh, shoot. So anyway, I go, they fix it. It starts healing immediately. I'm so happy I did it. But I, for 2 days, right, was listening to other people that know nothing about ear piercings. Okay. I mean, my husband and my dermatologist, like this is not what they specialize in. Right. And we do this a lot. We listen to other people not doing what we're doing, not as far along as us, and we're taking their opinion as like a fact. Right. And it's crazy and we have to stop it. Okay. Now, with that said, this just reminded me, I was like laying in bed while I was like dying from my ears. And I was thinking, this has to be a podcast because I see it constantly. Here's the deal. Kent, my husband, is so supportive of me, my business, of anything, right? He's just a really good guy, good person. He has the best intentions. And when I win, he wins, right? But that doesn't mean he is the person I should be going to when I have a problem in certain things like ear piercings, which he knows nothing about, right? Or my business. So I want you to be thinking about how much you're using your spouse as somebody to give you guidance in your business. And should they be? Now, some of you have a spouse that is in business, is in your business, loves the business, is business minded. Okay, then it might make sense for you. A lot of you They're not in the business. They have nothing to do with business. They have a 9 to 5 job. They're not somebody that would ever want to be the entrepreneur, right? They like being the employee. Okay. So my point is be careful. Now, I actually think there's an even more dangerous one. And that is when you have an employee, right, that you need to check with first before you make the big decisions. This blows my mind how often I hear people say, it'll be something like inside of Well Oiled, one of our clients will say something like, "Oh, I like that. Okay, let me check and see if I can get the team on board. And if they agree, I think that this would be really good for us." And I'm like, hold up. Did you just say you're going to ask your team member if they're going to do this when you want them to do it? It's like, well, yeah, I mean, like people will say something like, I have them watching Bella's trainings inside the program, but like I can't get them to do it. So she just doesn't think this program is valuable. And I said, well, that's because she's not doing it. Tell her it's not an option. She needs to actually implement and see if it works or not. Like, and it's funny because this person specifically was like, and the business owner was like on our side, but in her mind, she was like, yeah, well, she just thinks like she already knows all this stuff. So why would she try to like do that? And I said, well, is she getting the kinds of results that my social media manager is getting? She's like, oh, absolutely not. I'm like, correct. So she doesn't get to be the person that says, I don't really think this is going to work because she doesn't have the area of expertise. Like, who are you listening to, right? Who are you giving power and authority in your business? Okay. So if I were to come back to my team and said, hey, listen, my mentor just told me to do this. I want to do a 90-day test of experimenting with XYZ. There is nobody on my team that is going to be like, no, I don't really want to do that. I don't think it's a good idea. They would just never. Okay. And if that is happening in your business, we need to make some changes. Okay. You are the leader, right? You have to make sure that you are not going seeking their advice and their approval. Yes, we need buy-in. We want them on board, but that is very different, right? Asking for support and asking for permission are two different things. Okay. Now, Jim Rohn, one of his famous sayings, right, is like, you're the average of the 5 people you hang around. And like many, many years ago, I had a mentor say to me, who are your top 5? Okay. And I like wrote down these 5 people that I would have said, like, I spend the most amount of time with. And he's like, hey, you're missing this girl. I always hear you talk about her. And I was like, oh, well, she's just one of my employees. She's not like somebody I like hang around, right? And he was like, no, no, no. Who do you spend the most amount of time with? And I would say, this guy said to me, I would say by listening to you, she's definitely one of your 1 of 5. And I was like, oh, like, I definitely don't want her to be one of my 5. And he's like, tell me more. I'm like, well, if I'm the average of the 5 people I hang around, I'm like, this person is an employee that doesn't really have big dreams. I'm probably the biggest company she's ever worked for, right? And I said, she doesn't even have the same goals that I have. So if we're putting her as one of my top 5, this is a problem. He's like, I know. I've been watching you. Like, let this person give you advice. I'm like, oh no. Like, I didn't even see it because I wasn't counting her. And I say that because you might be doing what I'm doing and picking like your 5 friends. But if you are working really, really closely with somebody in your business, you might be spending 40 hours or 20 hours, or this person counts. Okay. So you got to be careful. Now, there are people that can be an amazing team member. It just might not be somebody you personally want to spend 20, 30, 40 hours a week with. You might not want them directly reporting to you. You might not want them on leadership, right? These are things to be careful with. So I really want to ask you here, who's really leading the company? Now, this is pretty crazy, but we have seen like the owner come in, the right hand is coming, and the right hand is in charge. Our team can see it. We all know. We give an idea. The owner's like, yeah, I like it. And then the right hand shuts it down. And then they do what the right hand says. And the owner isn't even aware they're not actually in charge of the company. Okay. Now, when we see it, we equip the owner of like taking back the reins, what to say, how to proceed. Okay. Unfortunately, 99% of people that are in this spot don't know it's happening. Okay. Now, this can be really, really dangerous if this is not the right person. If this person is not somebody who knows more than you, who has built a company more successful than you, and this person's in charge, it can be a really dangerous situation to be in. So you need to be very careful. The next one I want to talk about is listening to peers that are at a similar level to you, or not even close to your level. Okay. I learned this lesson the hard way. So I'm a big believer in like using my community and my network to get referrals. Okay. I don't just like Google CPAs. I'm like, hey, friends, who's got a phenomenal CPA? Fill me in. And then I just like look up all their names and then I do my own due diligence and find the winner. Okay. So I did that in the last few years with a specific type of contractor. And these two people both said the same name and were raving about this contractor. Okay. They were really pricey, but they're like, listen, they are so good. You are not going to regret it, which to me, I believe in revenue generators. I'm like, all right, I'll spend the kind of money you're talking about if this person's good. So I hired the person. They were terrible, like literally terrible. I'm like, Stacy, how did this go wrong? Okay. Then I look at both the friends that recommend this person and I realize that I am at the time like 3 to 4 times bigger than my friends that recommended this person. Okay. The reason this is important is because this contractor might be phenomenal with that size business owner. But because I was way bigger, it was not a great experience for me. But it is my fault because I listened to people that are not where I want to go. They're where I was like 5 years ago. And I listened to them and I ended up with not a great fit. Okay. So when I'm looking for recommendations, referrals, I am making sure I am not the biggest person that this person has handled, right? Like when somebody says to me, you're one of our biggest clients, that is a red flag for me. I'm like, hold up. I don't want to be your guinea pig here. I want to know like my size business is your bread and butter and you do this all day, every day, and you know how to handle this, right? I don't want to hear I'm like your first or your biggest, right? So this is a hard one because they're your friends. When people love something, you're like, oh my goodness, I need to do this, right? But you need to be careful. Is this truly like where this person is at? I find this sometimes even in like peer-led masterminds. Sometimes it's like the blind leading the blind, right? Like you're both struggling with it and you're both giving each other advice. It would be like if I needed dating advice and I went to the person that's single and hasn't been dating for a long time. And I'm like, give me advice. They're not the person to be giving advice. Like we shouldn't be giving advice to each other. We should find like the married couple, right? Who quickly found somebody that they can give us the advice. So be careful. You're not listening to peers that are not where you want to go. Okay. Now, what's really interesting is before I used to be kind of maybe like a little insecure, maybe a little fragile. I was easily swayed. That's how I'll put it. I was easily swayed. And if somebody would tell me something, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to try it. Right. And I was just at an event and I ended up networking with there's like a circle of like 3 of us, me and 2 other people. And both of these people, somehow my topic of my team came up and the size of my team. And they both were like, oh my goodness, like way too big. Like you don't want to have that many people. Like what a headache, what a nightmare. Oh my goodness, how much is your payroll? Like that's just too much. Right. And they were both like kind of ganging up on me a little bit. Now I've learned to like pick my battles. And I knew I wasn't going to convince 2 people that were, half my size, a third my size of why I was doing it. So I just like let the conversation kind of fade. Okay. The old me would have defended myself, right? Then they would have argued back and it just would have like, why? Right. But the really old me would have been like, oh, wait, am I too big? Should I not be this big? Okay. And the first thing I realized as they were starting to give me advice, number 1, are they where I want to be? No. They're where I have been before, right? And the reason I am so big is because I was like, again, like 2 to 3 times bigger than they were, okay? So they'll probably get to my size if they keep growing. They just don't know that yet. So I had to hear them say it. I had to be like 2 versus 1 and still be true to, if I want team advice, I'm going to go talk to the people bigger than me in revenue, right? That are doing similar things, that have a team of the similar size. So be careful that you're not, just because it's 2 against 1 or 5 people in your group coaching program said this, they all 5 might be wrong. So be careful. Okay. Be careful. This is why I said like the blind leading the blind is never a good strategy. Okay. If you don't have somebody in the group that you are looking up to that is further ahead than you, it is the wrong group. Okay. Whether it's the facilitator, the mentor, maybe just a person participating, you do not want to be at the top. Okay. Now, If you're at the top, but the mentor is higher than you, you're not at the top. There's still much, much more to learn. Okay. Just be careful. If you're inside of Well Oiled, this is one of the reasons we don't let you mastermind without anybody. Okay. So you might not have realized this, but we have something we do inside of Well Oiled operations is we do weekly mastermind breakouts based off of revenue. Okay. So let's say you're at 100K annual, you're in a room. If you're at 500K annual, you're in another room. If you're at $1 million plus, you're in a room, right? We separate by revenue. Why do we do that? Number one, if you're at $1 million, you are not interested in having the $300,000 person give you advice. It doesn't make sense, right? They don't know how to get there. They've never done it, right? So we put you in separate rooms based off of revenue and based off of who's got similar struggles, right? Who's actually already gone through it, who's already passed it. Okay. So that's number one. Number two strategy that you might not have noticed is our masterminds are facilitated by our coaches. Now, they don't really do much, right? They are just there to make sure the conversation keeps going, but they're not there to coach. They're not there to give strategy. They're there just to facilitate. And some of you might have been thinking, is this really necessary? Why is she paying for their time to be in this room when they're quiet? They're not really doing anything. And here's the big secret. We are monitoring bad coaching. We want to make sure that not on our time, not on our watch, will a client be given bad advice from again, the blind leading the blind, right? We don't want a client hearing advice from another client that is not sound advice. We want to make sure we can pause and say, hold up, we can interject if we need to. Okay. I see why this person would say that. But one thing you should know is this person's already here. And this is why we teach XYZ. Okay. So it is really, really scary when you have peers that maybe shouldn't be coaching, shouldn't be giving you advice. They're still in that same boat. Okay. Now, some of you have peer groups. Some of you are talking to a friend all day, every day. You're messaging once a week. You've set up private Zoom calls. Okay. The first thing I want to ask you is, are those people ahead of you? Are they where you want to go? Okay. Even if you're oh, we're exactly the same spot. Here's the problem with that. You're exactly in the same spot. You both are going to have similar struggles. Okay. But I am not getting advice from people that are at the $5 million mark. Okay. That's where I'm at right now. We've done 5 million already annually without December included. So we're past the 5 million mark. We'll probably be a little bit closer to 6. I am not asking advice from people that are at my same revenue. I am seeking advice from $10 million level businesses because that's where I'm trying to head. If I get advice from $5-6 million businesses, guess what? I'm going to know how to hit $5 and $6 million, right? I want to learn how to hit 10. So who's the best person to teach me how to hit 10? Anybody that's already done it. Okay. So it's not bad having peer mentors and friends that you can pick their brain and ask them questions. It's just, do you have the right ones? Okay. Now, I don't know about you, but I get a lot of unsolicited advice. Everybody wants to tell me what to do and how to do it, even if they're not past my level. And you might be getting that too, right? Your mom at Christmas is telling you what to do and all these things, right? You can't even go to a holiday event without somebody telling you how to run a business when they don't run a business. Okay. It's going to happen. It's just, you need to tune it out. Don't defend, don't argue, just say, thanks so much. I appreciate that. Move on, right? So this is where you really got to start to ask yourself and realize this is what's going on. Now, you can see, I'm not even talking about bad coaches, right? I'm not talking about bad consultants. So that is a whole nother podcast. This was just, you're already getting advice, okay? You might not have even realized how much it was actually happening to you, right? For many small business owners, these people are becoming their unknowing board of directors, right? But the question is, are they equipped to give you advice? Be careful who you let in your circle of influence. Do you have a real grasp? If you're the average of the 5, do you have the right 5 marked down? Are you not even realizing somebody else is in there that maybe shouldn't be? Okay. Now, hopefully you have a coach or somebody who is further along than you, whether that's in business or at least in their expertise, right? So I just said, I wouldn't hire somebody under my revenue. However, You might be at 1 million, but you know how to do LinkedIn. And I'm about to like want to jump on LinkedIn and I'm going to pick your brain and I will pay for that expertise. Does that make sense? Further along than you in a specific area, or if you're looking for overall growth, make sure they're overall bigger than you. Back to my story. If I would have just called the piercing place the morning I woke up, right? My ears would probably have, I probably would have fixed it faster. I would have not done things I shouldn't have done to it, right? And it would have just healed quicker, right? So I want you to be thinking about who's in your top 5 right now. Who are you asking when you need support, right? Are they equipped to support you? I've said that many times, and that is on purpose. You might think, no, they're great. I love them. No, they might the best intention at heart. They might, but that doesn't mean they're equipped to give you guidance, feedback on your business right now. Okay. So the question is, who would you go to right now if you needed advice, support in 2024? And then my next question for you is it time to up level your circle of influence?